Hi there. Welcome to Roopa's Six Questions for Authors. I'm Roopa Krishnan. By day, I'm a Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer. For the rest of my time, I'm a writer. And I've written business books, but as of late, I'm also a crime writer. Today, I have with me a wonderful writer, and I can now say a good friend, Suresh Kumar, who's written a most wonderful book that actually touched my heart. Suresh, do you want to hold up your book?
There it is.
The Girl
It's
in
called Girl in Scarlet Hijab.
Yes, and it's such an evocative image and title. So I'd rather than me doing the introductions, I'd like Suresh to talk a little bit about his, who he is, what he does, what's his day job, then we'll click into all the questions.
Nice to meet you, Rupa. It's been quite a few years that I met you, and first time I'm meeting you as a published author of a fiction. So, congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
So, I was born in India. I grew up. I came here in 91 as part of a job transfer. So, I've been working in the corporate world for so long, and then I became an entrepreneur. And currently, I'm a professor. I teach entrepreneurship to young students, undergrad and grad, at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. So I am, like you, I am a nighttime writer. So when I'm not working, I'm usually thinking about a story idea or actually writing it.
Right.
So most of my writing is done later on during the day. So I kind of balance, amongst other things, I also do writing is an important part of my life these days.
Right. Yeah. So, welcome to the world of nighttime writers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's get started. So my first question, I call it the origin spark, right? Every writer has that initial idea, the one that sort of makes them think, I've got to turn this into a book. What was yours? And, how did it turn in? What did it turn into? The very first idea.
So for me, Rupa, it came as an image, just one short scene in an event that happened in my life about 40 years ago, back in the day when I was young and in school in Cochin. So I had gone to this event in which a very famous writer from Kerala, you may have heard of him, his name is Sukumar. He was the speaker at a literary event, and me and my brother, older brother, we had gone as volunteers. And after the event, after he finished his speech, there was a long line of people waiting to meet with him. And in that line, there was this, and she stood out because she was young and she was wearing a head covering of some sort. So me and my brother was having this conversation as to why is she in line with all this older people, and that image of an older writer at the height of his fame and this young girl, maybe a fan, waiting in line to meet with him with a book in her hand, that for some reason that image stood out, and I kept thinking about what could potentially be their relationship, how are they connected, etc. And that image is what kind of led was the spark to the whole story.
So you carried that image in your head for 30 plus 40 years. Amazing.
40 plus years, yes.
Amazing.
Yes, that's right.
So, we'll delve into the story a bit in a bit, but talk to me about the process ritual. Like, what does actually writing look like for you on a typical day? Not the romanticized version that people, some of these authors try to tell us about, but the real one. What does work honestly look like?
So that's a great question because for me, work is a little complicated. I don't follow a ritual that is that I can say that I spend X number of hours or so many words per day, like many authors do. I need to be inspired to write a chapter
Mm.
or even a few pages. So for me, it is usually a lot of thinking or reflection on a possibility of the story or of a scene or who's telling that scene, the point of view, uh, and then it is all that reflection over several days or weeks And that usually happens for me best when I'm driving or I'm taking a flight, where you're not doing and you're not engaged actively in something. So your mind is free
Right.
and you're not having other disturbance.
Right.
That is, and another great place for me usually is when I'm gardening. So when I'm out there, planting my tomatoes and other things, that is a great time for me to kind of start thinking about what would a character have done, what if I change that person, have somebody else tell the story, etc.
Mm.
So it is a lot of reflection. And then when I move into writing, it's usually at night. So, and I write when all family members go to bed.
Right.
As there is this famous saying, the greatest impediment to a writer is the crib, the baby's crib, which is in the corridor.
Right.
So it is only after when the family goes to sleep that I really get into action. That's when I'm at my best. So usually 10 to 3 is the
10 to
time.
3. Wow.
10
Okay.
to 3 is when I write. And I also write by hand the first time. The first draft, at least for this book, was always handwritten. And I found it easier to write with a pencil, correct it and rewrite it, etc. Before I then took it into, I used my voice to put it into a Word document.
Amazing. So,
And that's how I would.
this is such an interesting, unexpected discovery for me. So, as I said to you, you're the fifth of the authors that I'm talking to. And pretty much every one of them has told me that this is part of the process that they sit down and write, longhand. So, that's a very interesting. And do you feel like it helps you burnish the story in a way that's different than going direct to the keyboard?
I think so because the keyboard becomes a little bit more mechanical process. So I think this gives you, and I think there's another connection which this is my theory. I've not done any research on this, but the fact that like you and maybe many other authors, grew in countries where you're used to writing longhand, especially in school and college, long essays. You had to write by hand, and so the connection between your written, the hand and the cognition, the way of thinking, etc.,
Yeah.
is kind of established pathways. So therefore, for me, that is the best way to be creative. And the other process of putting it into a computer is more of a mechanical process. So their creativity is limited as compared to when I'm writing with longhand.
Amazing. Well, let me ask you this now. You talked to us about being an entrepreneur and then as somebody who teaches entrepreneurship, and before that, being in corporate life. Um, what is the day job tension like? Writing and your professional life basically exists in the same brain, right? What is writing given to your career and the other way around? What's your career taken from your writing as well?
So for me, fortunately, because I'm a professor, I think the correlation is stronger than, let's say, a typical, if you were a software engineer, it would have been much more difficult to make that connection. So for me, I'm teaching, I'm thinking, and especially in entrepreneurship, you're thinking creatively with your students, helping them with an idea. So that creative process is, I would say, continuously there even in my day job. So that way, I would say I'm lucky. How writing has helped me with my job is that these days when I meet with a student team or an individual student, I'm thinking about them also as a potential character, uh, like
Right,
in my stories, right?
right,
So they have a backstory too. So they have parents, they have brothers, sisters, friends, etc. And so now I've noticed of late that when a student comes to me, especially with an excuse that maybe they cannot submit an assignment on time, or perhaps they have to miss class, there really could be some stories behind that.
right.
So in the past, I used to kind of doubt that initially, but now I'm thinking, okay, it's possible because they also they're a character in their story. So
So
one thing I'm
more empathy then.
more empathy, and also the fact that every person has a story to tell. So that is how I'm approaching it. So even when let's say if I take an Uber ride, that person has a story. So I kind of have a conversation with the person more, just
Right.
trying to find out where they came from, why are they doing this job, etc. So it makes me more empathetic, and I hope a little better human being by being an author.
That's wonderful. Um, Tell me, there's a this one you and I talked about the fact that you may not actually have an example on this one, but I'm game to have you talk about a book you walked away that you were reading. The question is about the abandoned idea. Like, what's the book you started, got deep into writing, and walked away from? But given that you're a reader as well, is there a book that you got into and then had to walk and walked away from it? And can you tell me why you didn't finish it?
Yeah, so just to answer the first part of your question, as of now, I don't have an abandoned idea of my own,
Yeah.
just because I have about 10 different ideas that I'm working on, a prequel, a sequel to this book, plus some nonfiction. In fact, I'm taking a book out of a leaf out of your book, Urupa, with respect to, I'm doing a nonfiction right now.
Okay, nice.
So I know you did a nonfiction first and then did a fiction.
Yeah,
So I'm doing it the other way. So I don't have an abandoned idea, partly because I'm an optimist. I'm an eternal optimist. So I believe that you can get to, if you live long enough, you can get to every book idea that you have.
right,
I think the most more important thing is, what do you want to prioritize now? What is it that you want in this point of your life to get out? Where is your networks that can help you take the book to the next level, etc.
right,
With
right.
respect to an actual book that I had to give up, it is unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say this, is Dr. Verghese Abraham's The Covenant of Water. Not
Right.
because the book is anyway an issue, it is actually a fantastic book, but I found it to be too big a book. So, I like to read when I'm in bed. I get into bed, and my last about maybe half an hour is when I read.
Yeah,
And this book is just too heavy for me to take into my bed and read. So I had kind of kept it aside, but I'll get to it, I
yeah.
think, in the near future.
It's really interesting with Abe Verghese's books. I think I find them big and heavy in the sense of the emotions that they elicit in me sometimes are very big and heavy, and I do sometimes close them, put them away, not forever, but for a bit, because it can be very strong. And he does have the imagery that can make you stop for a second. But yes, I hope you land up finishing.
Right, right. Also, he writes literary fiction, so it requires a lot more engagement with the prose
That's
in
right.
order to understand the story well.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your shelf test when you finish a book, and what is your internal sense of whether it's succeeded? What's your measure of success? And has the girl with the Scarlet Hijab hit that metric in your mind?
Oh wow, that's a tough one. So for me, the simple metric for this book, being my first book, was that just getting it done, and it took me about two years to finish that process. Multiple revisions, as well know, it took some
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
You go through that whole agent process, and then I figured out a way to short circuit the agent and go directly to the publisher. So for me, it was more of an discovering many things that I did not know about, taking an idea into a book and then getting it published and then marketing it.
right,
That whole journey was uh, is so when I complete that journey, I feel that that is success in itself.
right,
But
right.
beyond that, for me, the best marker of success is when I do my book events, especially in India. I've done about maybe 25, 30 such book events, either in a library or a bookstore or a college or a university, etc.,
Yeah,
or a book club, a reading club. And in all of those, what I found most interesting is usually there is about a few people, at least 5, 10 people, who may have read the book, and they have a different interpretation of the story than you originally had intended.
right.
And when I kind of explore that with them as to what do you think should have happened, or what do you think happened, it is so interesting to see how people internalize the story
Right.
into their life, and they give it back to you in a different form. And I found that to be so fascinating, as was also the case where some people identify with a character. It could be a small character,
Hmm.
but for some reason, because they have a family member or a friend who was like that, they are able to identify and perhaps relate to a character much more than the main characters in the
Yeah.
story. And I
Yeah.
found those things to be fascinating, that people take a story and they kind of run this movie or a script in their mind,
Yeah.
and that would be different from what the author has originally written.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had in my mind the sort of pleasure of seeing people like underline certain sentences and say, look at this sentence. I see it because of Instagram. And I think, wow, they really got that. And it's always
Yeah,
surprising
absolutely.
when something like that. And I never really stopped to think that that is in a way the measure of success, right? Rather than a number on Amazon. So
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
that's wonderful. So the necessary lie is the last question, right? All writers sometimes protect something within themselves, about themselves or their process, or even the readers, just to make sure they can keep going. What is your necessary lie?
All right, another good question. So, the necessary lie, or rather, maybe I wouldn't call it a lie, but something that I discovered myself would be that you have this thinking, and when people talk to you, they talk about you as an individual person. You came up with the story. So, all that creativity rests within you as an individual. But what I found out is that no author can claim full rights or ownership of a story, because a lot of it comes from what their culture, their friends and family, these things that they have read, the things they have witnessed.
Yeah,
In my case, for example, a lot of it goes back to the temples in Kerala, where I go for festivals every year until I was a teenager, and there is a lot of storytelling going on. So
right,
some of those story ideas I was able to take in and put into my book. So there's no way I can claim that this was a solo act. It
right.
was part of so many stories, from of my culture, of my family, etc. So that is, I think, one lie which maybe people think, or a misconception people have,
Right.
which is not true, because every author really needs an ecosystem or a village in order to do a good story.
Yeah. That's really a contemplative, important thought there. Thank you so much, Suresh. I sort of enjoyed this discussion, and I wish you the very best. I really look forward to reading the next couple of books coming out of you,
All
fiction
right.
or nonfiction. Thank you so much. And the readers will be able to find a description right there of the book, and also where to buy it. I strongly urge everyone to go find the book and immerse yourself in a whole new world. Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you, Rupa. I enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye bye.